Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining the Tahoe Regional Young Professionals, or TRIP, in our candidate interview series. We will be chatting with each of the South Lake Tahoe City Council candidates and sharing video footage with you, all in an effort to engage the community so they can make an informed decisions about the upcoming November 4th election. We want to take a moment to let you, the viewers, know that TRIP is an independent organization, and although we do not get involved with the community, including political issues, we make every effort to deliver timely and unbiased information. I'm Jen Boyd, here with candidate Angela Swanson.
Good morning.
And we have a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Good morning.
Good morning, Jen.
Tahoe Regional Young Professionals represents a generation that want to make their future in South Lake Tahoe. How do you plan to help your constituents who are trying to follow their careers and raise a family here?
I've spoken to many young people in the community, and I'm the parent of an 18 and 21-year-old, and I have share your concerns about how do I provide a community that will bring a next generation back and to be able to stay here and take us forward as a community. One of the things I'm seeing is it's creating the right job opportunities. Doing that requires basic infrastructure. You are the most plugged-in generation we've ever seen. You want to live and work in the same area. You want to be able to live without needing a car to get everywhere. That means more work on bike trails, more work on sidewalks. Frankly, when I talk to folks who want to be here from the Bay Area, it means improving our broadband and cellular infrastructure so they can truly be telecommuters. It means improving our appearance so that infamous Google telecommuter that everyone has talked about for years in this community really will pick our community to move to. Lastly, we need to work around the areas of the destination education and environmental innovation to bring new dynamic careers, to create the job opportunities that makes it affordable for your generation, my kids' generation, to be able to buy homes and to raise their family here and be here for the long haul.
Absolutely. Thank you. Moving along, South Lake Tahoe's voter record was at an all-time low in this last election. As a candidate, how do you view voter apathy in our town, and why is this election important to voters to participate?
Voters have changed over the years. We now see voters come if there's an issue or a candidate that incites their excitement. I think it's just what our new world is like. So it's our responsibility to take the issues to the voter to incite them and excite them. Personally, as a candidate this year, I'm walking and talking to voters, bringing the politics to their door, not expecting them to come to my door at City Hall. And that's where you rock the enthusiasm, get people involved of all stripes. Currently, the primary voter in our community is over 65 that's a frequent voter. About 50% of the time, voters in your age demographic up to mine and into our early 50s, but about 50% of the time, 30 to 50% of the time. Again, we have to make it interesting to them. Social media, blogging, getting out there so we create knowledge, interest, and investment in our community. That's why I'm proud of my record as a council member in supporting our initiatives to make the city more user-friendly so that we draw the electorate in so they're more informed and consequently they care more.
Absolutely, and that's what we're hoping to do with these series, is to get people
This
more
is
informed.
exactly how you get people more informed. I'm delighted you all are doing it. We're a media-starved market in many ways.
And we know people's times are busy. They can't always make it to each of the different forums, and so we really appreciate your time and all the candidates' time.
Today we want our news when and where we're able to digest it, not just at 7 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Absolutely. South Lake Tahoe's unemployment rate is slowly improving, but how can City Council address the town's underemployment? How can we bring more career opportunities to local professionals with the right experience or skill set?
Well, and we've already touched on that a little bit. One of the problems of being a resort community is that we're among the first to feel the impact of recession and hard economic times, and among the last to recover, because so much of our economy is built on disposable dollars. And do people have them or not? First of all, we need to start with really expanding what job opportunities are available with existing businesses. It's the easiest, fastest way to go. Drive more tourists here through cooperation with our marketing organizations in the community, our outreach to the world. I learned, for instance, on the Conservancy Board, when we started promoting small things we did with trails, hits went viral around the world and made people desire to come to Lake Tahoe. It doesn't take always a media budget. It takes sharing with the world we're out there and what we're doing and accomplishing to bring more people in. Those dollars start making people less underemployed. That's not the long-term answer, though. The long-term answer, again, is from the city's point of view, improving the infrastructure, streamlining regulations so it's easier for businesses. For instance, simple fixes. Businesses should be able to, in the summer, create outdoor eating spaces and sitting and visiting spaces that would draw more customers, keep them longer, spending more dollars. Our bureaucracy gets in the way. So that's a piece we need to fix. And then thirdly, we need to work with our partners. We can no longer work as silos. Destination education, environmental innovation. We also need to actively work with our government agencies to take advantage of the fact that we have a naturally occurring population retirement. The city alone is looking at 30% of our jobs, our current employees going away and their jobs positions opening up. We need to work hard to recruit young, dynamic people into these jobs. We're seeing the same thing at the Conservancy, Lahontan, TRPA, the school district, all throughout our community. That's an opportunity to draw young new professionals in.
Do you have some ideas of how to draw those young professionals in?
We need to be out there more. It's in video, it's in discussion. I had a great conversation the other day with a woman who came in who said, we've owned our vacation home here for 15 years. My husband's an executive in the Bay Area, and my kids see no reason to come back here. Outside of Snow Globe, you're not offering things that make it exciting for them. So that can go toward events programming, activities programming, working with our ski and recreation partners to make it an exciting destination. So it's create the events, they will come, promote the events and the amenities that make them want to come and get that message out to them in their own places. It's activities like this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You mentioned a little bit of the barriers and some of the restrictions. Can you give me a couple of examples of what you see are the biggest barriers and how we can help knock those down?
Some of it still comes down to TRPA. Despite the new regional plan that was updated in 12-12-12, we're still seeing that some of the basic rules haven't gone away. Let's talk about trying to put those little outdoor eating places together. It's a coverage analysis. The city has to charge fees to look to see, do you even qualify to be able to do it? We really need to look at continuing innovation between ourselves in realizing what do our businesses need to be more successful, to create that margin of more income to make them go from barely making it to thriving. And then how can we look at our rules to streamline them and adapt them for short seasons, and then for TRPA. Right now, one of the things that I see with our regulations, even just enforcing codes on the books, such as sign enforcement, is that the scoff laws know that our processes take so long. If we ticket them in May or first bring it to their attention, by September is when it finally would come to fruition with the penalty, so they ignore us anyway. Those that follow the rules suffer the consequences. We need to really look at getting rid of that kind of a situation. And again, working with TRPA on the no-nonsense logical ways that we can help bring new businesses into town and make it affordable for them to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. We are going to, excuse me 1 second.
Of course.
At a recent candidate forum, a question was asked pertaining to engaging the Latino community in local policymaking. This question, and the forum as a whole, was publicly referred to as racist following the event. Do you think that's an indicator of racial tensions or disconnect from South Lake Tahoe's ethnic diversity?
There's always tension. We like to pretend that our society is beyond that, but we're not. As a parent, when my son was at South Tahoe Middle School and the immigration reform issues came up and Latino kids were protesting, having a very personal connection, many of them having members of their family that were here as undocumented citizens. And it took a lot of work just among our kids 5 years ago to get them able to talk to each other, to understand the differences between them, to hear their stories, and to create understanding. I think, so there is an issue, but I also will go reflect back to that question. I think it could have been asked a little better because it was really about how do we market more broadly to people, because we're not a majority state the way we used to be, that predominantly Caucasian. And it's really taking a look, are we marketing across the board? Are we creating a hospitable environment for everybody to survive here and for people of all backgrounds to want to be part of our community? My barometer for how well we're doing is a very simple question. Let's look at our media, let's look at our marketing information. Do you see people who aren't blonde and blue-eyed? Do you see families and people of all ages? That's when you know you're being inclusive in the most practical and basic way. And we're not always successful with that. So I think we have a ways to go. I think our community strives very hard to be open-minded, to work together, but we have a ways to go. Our Latino Affairs Commission, for instance, was disbanded because we couldn't get folks to apply, and almost a majority of the members were non-Latinos. Now, as an independent community-based commission, it's thriving and doing better. We have to change how we interact to make our local governance and our local community feel more inclusive and more representative. We're thrilled to have a city council with 3 women on it. Look at, though, we're all of a certain age and a certain ethnic background. It's great to get more diversity. And the same applies for people come to a place where they feel that they're going to be respected and feel similar in some way or another.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have some examples of how we might be able to engage different backgrounds in our community?
That's such a broad question. I'll pick a couple of ways. One, let's go to when we talk about that marketing and talk, we've talked a lot about YouTube and outreach and social media and how do we do it. Our imagery has to show all kinds of people. It needs to be reach across all genders, ethnicities, ages, family compositions. That's the number one way that we do it. Just in that image we show of what is South Lake Tahoe, it's not just a Nordic skier that you would have seen in the 1950s.
Right.
I think we've done a lot of work toward that. I'm not dismissing it, but that's consciously, we have to look at that in how we compose what we do. Secondly, we need as a community as a government agency, that's really my responsibility. That's my role on the council, is to be going to them. We've learned when I was on the school board that Cafecitos was our successful way of bringing our Hispanic or Latino parents into the community by creating a forum where they felt language wasn't a barrier, interest wasn't a barrier, time wasn't set around sort of that old PTA structure. We had to find an amended type of structure that worked for them. We have an overwhelming response at both Bijou School, Sierra House, and the middle school, where we have created a conducive link that makes people feel safe, appreciated, and able to communicate effectively their issues and concerns. We need as a city government to do more of that. And that's why, again, I as a candidate, I'm going door to door, and quite often going door to door with friends who are bilingual, who can help me bridge those gaps for the voters who have things, and non-voters, that they need to share with me.
Excellent, thank you. Little hypothetical, if US 50 South Shore Revitalization Plan, or Loop Road, is approved to move forward, how will you work with other city council members to implement it and address some of the concerns about displaced residents?
One, if it's approved, it requires city approval. So that means we already will have a council that at least on a 3-2 vote, at minimum, is supportive of it moving forward. I like to reel back this discussion about the Loop Road because we say those words and people move into corners. Right now we know people sidestep through that informal loop already. The real opportunity with a Loop Road is on the city's behest. Are we willing to do the economic and community revitalization? In the end, it's just a road. It's what we make of it that matters. And how do we address it and the displaced residents? Are we going to work with those owners of apartment buildings and homes to come back into the neighborhood on some of the empty and open lots in new areas to rebuild and create quality workforce housing? Are we willing to reach out to new funds in the state that are available for workforce housing to make that happen? Are we willing to create the green belt that can happen? The mixed use that brings businesses back in, creates housing up above, that's been on our books as a community plan since the 1990s. Are we willing to create, with the roads that will be turned into cul-de-sacs, to add sidewalks, lighting, to take the opportunity to create a second neighborhood park, only the second in our community's history? Those are the challenges the city would face and that I would work with them to implement. Without that kind of proactive engagement, we will have dissatisfied citizens and businesses, and we will just have a road. and none of the community benefit that we could leverage that $60 million to do.
Absolutely. Thank you. Similar along those lines of looking at what decision-making process would be like for the redevelopment of the South Lake Tahoe Airport.
Right now, the data coming to us shows that general aviation is the important piece that we can build on. As the airline world has changed in the last 10 years, condensed flights, fewer port gates that they're flying out of and from, what we really need to look at is a tiered marketing opportunity that ties us in better with Sacramento and Reno as our regional airports, bringing our visitors in, improving that experience for getting them there, and then using general aviation. General aviation, in my mind, when I first started learning about this, seemed like a lot of little small planes, the little hobbyists coming in. General aviation is a world more. I had no idea that it means charter airlines, people who own shares in planes that ride up, cheaper than it is to fly Southwest to Reno and to come over, or what a commercial airline could offer for us. We need to be part of a concerted effort to market and create that kind of opportunity to make it a lively airport for us. FAA is wonderful, fortunately, about the conversion issues that need to go on at the airport when you talk about redevelopment, such as creating the baggage claim areas, the check-in and check-out, the security claim, the desk areas. It's about a 90-10 investment. So that part is affordable. But we really have to look at that opportunity to be part of a broader whole and make it happen. One last thought. As far as I can see, the jury is split when we look at other ski resort, community, mountain resort areas, that they either have an airport right there or they have an airport adjacent to them. Both models have worked. We have to figure out what works for us and to leverage which of those models, which right now looks to be the general aviation route, to be successful for us.
Great, thank you. What can the city, we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier, but let's go a little bit more in depth. What can the city do to address the lack of low-income housing in South Lake Tahoe?
One of the problems is we have to address, we have a lot of housing in Tahoe. So people get confused by the fact that there are a lot of homes, there are second homes. We have a lot of old housing stock, just as we have a lot of old motel stock. So number one, we have to look at opportunities to partner. Francie Alling is a perfect advocate for us with St. Joseph's Land Trust. We have Habitat for Humanity that would like to work with us, taking old homes that are in terrible shape and turn that into more affordable workforce single-family housing. That's a wonderful thing that we should be able to work with and on. As a member of the Lake Tahoe Collaborative, I've formed those relationships and I'm working with our code enforcement division that are identifying substandard housing that are perfect opportunities for them to come in as partners to rehabilitate. The value of that is it's putting people back into neighborhoods, full-time residents and full-time in our neighborhoods to make them vibrant and happy and social centers. The next thing we need to do is we need to eliminate the motels as transitional housing and housing for those who don't have a way. It's a fire hazard. It's a nuisance attraction in many respects because it can attract undesirables into the community. The sad truth is, though, with redevelopment gone, the old forms of low-income and workforce housing have disappeared as financing tools for us. New tools are developing. As a member of the City Council who is in Sacramento a lot, who is working on statewide legislative initiatives, I am working actively to generate opportunities for us through proactive legislative efforts and recognizing grant opportunities that are coming forward in the state for us to jump onto. But it means we have to really redirect our staff and to actively engage in opportunities to bring low-income housing here.
Absolutely. Final question for this
Yes.
session. When you envision South Lake Tahoe in 5 years, what do you see?
We are walking, we are riding, we are living above our workspaces. We are enjoying a community where Caltrans has finished its work and brightened our main streets. We are on an effort with our community college to become a four-year destination university. We have seen dormitories go in, and we're creating ourselves as a world-class destination college, bringing in more youth. We have more wonderful restaurants and coffee shops. Our empty storefronts are starting to fill up, and we'll have taken down the motels and some of those blighted areas and continued to make strides in improving our environment so that we have kept Tahoe blue by turning Tahoe green.
Absolutely. We do have a little bit more time.
Wonderful.
So we do
I'm
have
very
we do
efficient on
have another-
occasion.
yeah, and you can add more to that if you want. But City Council, as you know, recently voted to delay the final phase of the plastic bag ban in South Lake Tahoe. If California passes a statewide plastic ban, how would you recommend the city roll it out after the recent opposition?
Well, as an advocate for our city in Sacramento, working with the legislator's office, working with the proponents of the bag ban, the statewide bag ban actually only covers what we've already done, which is with grocery stores. Ours goes further into broader retail establishments, as many local ordinances do. We'll be able to retain that opportunity. I would urge with the new council, if it looks viable, again, I don't like to, well, let me finish this thought. I would try to bring it back for full enforcement as the ordinance was originally designed, as our community advocated for and continues to advocate for. I was very disappointed to see my fellow council members slow down implementation when there was no one asking for us to do it. I couldn't understand that. But going back to the other piece on what do we do with more broadly in the implementation of it, we should work as a community to up our profile and use that to our advantage as being very forward-thinking, not just in enforcing the broader retail piece, but this is the Tahoe people expect us to be. They expect us to be environmental progressives, dedicated to our lake, to a healthy living lifestyle. I would take that and use that to really bring us forward. But again, council tends to, one of my frustrations with our council is we tend to revisit issues over and over again, and it bogs us down. I think the community becomes frustrated with us that we can't just make a decision and move forward with it and stand behind our decisions as a unified group. So I would have a hard time if I didn't believe after these November elections that we couldn't put together at least a 3-2 majority for the further implementation. I'd have to sit back and wait for a more opportune time to do that, perhaps with the elections in 2 years. It pains me to say it, but that's part of trying to respect the process, our workload, and to get things accomplished.
Great, thank you. Anything else you'd like to add in these final few minutes that we touched on, or want to go back to anything? Or
I'd really like to just touch on, Ronald Reagan asked the question, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And it's been a theme with politicians nationally for a long time. Our community is better off. And I want to take a minute for us as a community to be able to appreciate that, because it's taken all of us. It's taken our citizens, it's taken our businesses, our local institutions, city staff and leadership, and a council that's not afraid to challenge things. When I was elected, we had furloughs. We laid off 65 employees. Morale was at an all-time low. Codes weren't being enforced. Our streets looked terrible. We had not invested as councils in 10 years in streets in any kind of meaningful way. We were told that we would be in the red and deficit spending within 4 years, that we'd have blown through all of our reserves. We've been very proactive, and I'm very proud of that. Look at what we've accomplished. We have not dipped into our reserves. We have a budget that is balanced on its own merit, not with borrowing or changing. We have triumphed with the end of redevelopment in winning over $8 million back from the Department of Finance, unheard of in the state, the kinds of wins we've gotten to restore our coffers. We've invested in our roads, and we are continuing to invest in our roads. On the capital outlay front, when I first came in as someone who's worked with capital outlay, with bonding and finance throughout the state for 20 years, I was shocked that when I was presented with our list of what our capital needs were, it included guns, it included computers. That's not capital outlay, that's capital equipment and equipment. We had no clear vision for what we needed, how we needed it, and to move forward. We've done all that. I am so proud to have been the champion of Harrison Avenue, to see us implementing the first recreation master plan that we are already funding. It's not even going on a shelf. We haven't even burned the last copy, and we're investing in Reagan Beach, the reinvestment in the rec center, Lakeview Commons. I am so proud of the record of what we've accomplished, and thank you for giving me a minute to reflect back on what's been accomplished in 4 years. I'm running because I think we've just begun, and the next 4 years will be, we're at the tipping point for changing our community for the good forever.
Excellent. Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
your
so
time.
very much.
And with that, we'll wrap up this interview. You can keep in touch with TRIP on Facebook and TahoeTrip.org. And thanks for watching. And remember that your vote matters. Please register and encourage your family and friends to register to vote, and let your voices be heard in the November 4th election.
Thank you.